You wake to the sound of air raid sirens echoing across Tehran. Your first thought is confusion because this is supposed to be a family vacation. Your second thought is terror because you recognize that sound from movies about war. You check your phone and see 47 missed calls from your parents in California. CNN breaking news. U.S. launches strikes on Iranian military targets. You're an American citizen trapped in a country at war with America, and both sides will assume you're a spy. Your name is Sarah Khosravi, and you've spent your entire life between two worlds. Born in Los Angeles to Iranian parents who fled after the 1979 revolution. Raised speaking Farsi at home and English everywhere else. Your childhood was a constant negotiation between Iranian family expectations and American social reality. Your parents wanted you to marry Iranian, stay close to culture, remember where you came from. You wanted to be normal, American, just like everyone else at school. The compromise was surface-level compliance with deeper assimilation. You attended Persian community events but dated whoever you wanted. You learned to cook gourmet sabzi but preferred in and out. You spoke Farsi with grandparents but thought in English. By college, you'd effectively chosen America. Berkeley for undergrad, Columbia for law school, corporate attorney at a firm in Manhattan, apartment in Brooklyn, friends from everywhere, life fully integrated into American professional class. Iran was just your parents' nostalgia, not your identity. You visited once as a teenager and found it foreign despite the family connections. The mandatory hijab felt oppressive. The restrictions on women felt archaic. The anti-American rhetoric felt personal even though you understood the history. You came back to California grateful to be American, not Iranian. But your parents never stopped being both. They followed Iranian news obsessively. They maintained connections with families still in Tehran. They sent money, made calls, and carried a grief for the country they'd left. Your grandmother still lives in Tehran, now 84 and increasingly frail. Your aunt and uncle are there with their 3 children. Your cousins, who you barely know, who grew up in a completely different world. For years, your parents begged you to visit, to connect with family, to understand your heritage, to see Iran as more than news headlines. You resisted because you were busy, because it felt dangerous, because you didn't want to confront the complexity. Then your grandmother got sick. Stage 4 cancer, doctors saying months, not years. Your mother cried on the phone, begging you to see her one last time. Your father, usually stoic, said it would mean everything to her. You looked at your calendar full of depositions and client meetings. You looked at your passport with both American and Iranian citizenship. You booked 2 weeks in Tehran, telling yourself it was just family obligation. The first few days are surprisingly normal. Your grandmother's apartment in northern Tehran is modest but comfortable. Your aunt cooks elaborate meals that take all day to prepare. Your cousins, despite the age gap and cultural differences, are welcoming and curious. You visit family friends, tour historical sites, eat at restaurants you'd never find in LA. The city is vibrant and complex, nothing like the monolithic axis of evil imagery from American media. Young people push boundaries with fashion and social media. Artists create despite censorship. Families live, love, struggle, and laugh like families everywhere. You start to understand what your parents lost when they left. Not just a country, but a whole world of relationships and belonging. You feel something unexpected. Connection. Maybe you are Iranian after all, not just Iranian-American. Then the news breaks. A US drone strike has killed an Iranian general in Iraq. Your aunt's husband sees it first, calls everyone to the TV. You watch Iranian state media showing the aftermath. Your uncle is furious, calling it an act of war. Your cousin says America has gone too far this time. You stay quiet because you don't know what to say. You're American, but you're here, in this living room, with this family. The next days bring escalating tension. Massive funeral processions for the general. Millions in the streets chanting death to America. Supreme leader promising severe revenge. Your father calls from California, voice tight with worry. He tells you to come home immediately. The State Department issues a warning. All American citizens should leave Iran now. You book the first available flight, 3 days away. You tell yourself it's fine, just precautionary, tensions will cool. But your grandmother cries when you tell her you're leaving early. She holds your hand and says she knows she won't see you again. You promise to return. knowing you probably won't. 2 days before your flight, Iran retaliates. Ballistic missiles strike U.S. military bases in Iraq. No American deaths reported, but the situation is spiraling. You refresh news constantly, watching your escape window closing. Your uncle watches you with new suspicion. You're American now, not family. Your presence in his home during war feels different than it did during peace. The morning of your flight, you wake early to pack. Your phone shows notifications you don't want to read. U.S. launches additional strikes on Iranian targets. Iran closes its airspace. All commercial flights cancelled indefinitely. You're trapped. You call the U.S. Embassy, but the line is busy, then disconnected. You remember the embassy was closed years ago anyway. There's a U.S. interests section in the Swiss embassy, but they're overwhelmed. Thousands of Iranian-Americans trying to leave. You're told to shelter in place and await further instructions. Your aunt is polite but clearly stressed by your presence. Hosting an American during war makes her family suspect. Your cousins avoid eye contact. Your grandmother, ironically, is the only one who treats you the same. She's dying anyway. Geopolitics don't matter at her stage. You try to stay small, quiet, unobtrusive. You stop speaking English, only Farsi. You cover more carefully, trying to blend in. You delete your social media apps, worried about photos showing your American life. You're erasing yourself to survive. Days turn into weeks. The war settles into a pattern of strikes and counterstrikes. Not full invasion, but not peace either. A grinding, dangerous equilibrium that could explode at any moment. You can't work remotely because VPNs are unreliable and suspicious. Your firm emails asking when you'll return. You can't explain that you're stuck in a war zone. Your savings account drains as you pay rent on a Brooklyn apartment you can't access. You're living in your aunt's guest room, 34 years old, unemployed and trapped. The neighborhood watch starts paying attention, local committees that monitor foreigners and suspicious activity. Someone reports that your aunt is hosting an American. 2 men from the Revolutionary Guard come to the apartment. They're polite but firm. They need to verify your identity and intentions. You show them your Iranian passport, trying to emphasize that citizenship. You explain you came to visit your dying grandmother. You insist you're not political, not a spy, just family. They take your American passport for processing. They tell you to report weekly to their office. They make it clear you're being watched. After they leave, your aunt is shaking. She asks quietly if you can stay somewhere else. Your uncle found a cousin in South Tehran who might take you. You understand you're endangering them just by being here. The cousin's apartment is smaller, in a rougher neighborhood. He's sympathetic but also practical. You can stay, but you need to contribute. You start teaching English illegally to students who pay cash. It's risky because Americans are enemy now, but it's income and it makes you useful. You learn to navigate Tehran under wartime conditions, which streets to avoid, what times the morality police patrol, how to respond at checkpoints. You become invisible through careful performance of belonging. Your Farsi improves through necessity. Your American accent fades under pressure. You start thinking in Farsi sometimes. You're becoming Iranian, not through choice, but through survival. Months pass and the war becomes normalized. Not ended, just incorporated into daily life. People still work, marry, have children. Life continues even as bombs fall occasionally. You follow news of diplomatic negotiations, talks about prisoner exchanges and de-escalation. Your name isn't on any official list because you're not officially detained. You're just stuck, caught between bureaucracies that don't acknowledge your existence. Your grandmother dies on a Tuesday afternoon. You're sitting with her, holding her hand. She looks at you and smiles, calls you by your mother's name. She thinks you're her daughter who escaped to America 40 years ago. You don't correct her. The funeral is small because of wartime restrictions. Your family gathers, and for a moment, the war doesn't matter. You're just grieving together. Your mother calls from California, sobbing that she couldn't be there. You translate the prayers for her over speakerphone. It's the most connected you felt to both identities simultaneously. After the funeral, your aunt pulls you aside. She tells you there might be a way out. Black market smugglers who move people across the border to Turkey. It's expensive, dangerous, and illegal, but it's possible. You have $8,000 left in savings. The smuggler wants $15,000. You call your parents, explain the situation. They wire the money without hesitation. Your mother cries with relief. Your father gives you detailed instructions for what to do if you're caught. The preparation takes weeks. You grow out your hair to look more traditionally Iranian. You practice a cover story about being a refugee fleeing unemployment. You memorize routes and contact points. The smuggler is a middle-aged woman who does this regularly. She's professional, almost bored by the routine danger. She tells you the success rate is 70%. The other 30% get caught, imprisoned, or worse. You think about staying, waiting for official channels. But official channels haven't moved in 8 months. You're off everyone's radar, not important enough to prioritize. This might be your only chance. The night before departure, you visit your aunt one last time. She hugs you, genuinely warm despite the strain. She says your grandmother loved you. She says you'll always be family, even if you're American. She doesn't say be safe because safety isn't something anyone can promise. The journey happens in stages. First, a car to a safe house outside Tehran. Then a truck to the border region with 6 other people fleeing for different reasons. Everyone is quiet, processing their own desperation. You travel at night through mountain roads that barely exist. The truck breaks down twice. You walk the last 10 kilometers in darkness. The border crossing is a river, swollen from spring melt. You wade through water up to your chest, holding documents above your head. Turkish border guards could shoot. Iranian patrols could arrest. The smuggler could abandon you. Any of these outcomes are possible. You make it across and collapse on the Turkish side. You're soaking wet, exhausted, traumatized, but you're out. The processing in Turkey takes months. Refugee camps, paperwork, interviews with officials who don't believe your story. You're too American to be Iranian, too Iranian to be American. Your dual citizenship makes you suspicious to everyone. Aid workers don't know how to categorize you. You don't fit the profile of asylum seekers they're trained to help. Eventually, your lawyer in New York intervenes. Your firm, surprisingly loyal, hires immigration specialists. Your parents lobby their congressional representative. The bureaucracy slowly, painfully acknowledges your existence. 14 months after you were supposed to return from a 2-week trip, you land at JFK. Your parents are waiting at arrivals, older and grayer than you remember. You hug them and cry in a way you haven't since you were a child. You're home. Except home feels foreign now. New York is too loud, too fast, too wasteful. Your apartment is exactly as you left it, which feels obscene. Nothing changed here while everything changed for you. Your firm welcomes you back with awkward sympathy. They don't know what to say to someone who was trapped in a war zone. You're offered trauma counseling and reduced hours. You take both, but they don't help with the fundamental dislocation. You don't fit anywhere anymore. Too American for Iran, too Iranian for America. Too traumatized for normal life, too functional for victim status. You exist in a space between identities that has no name. The nightmares come regularly. Revolutionary guards at the door. Border crossing gone wrong. Being trapped forever in Tehran. Your grandmother calling you by your mother's name. Therapy helps you function but doesn't resolve the underlying question. Who are you now? You try to rebuild your American life. Dating apps, brunches, client meetings. But conversations feel trivial. People complain about subway delays while you remember wondering if missiles would hit. Friends discuss vacation plans while you remember planning escape routes. The disconnect is total. You join an Iranian-American support group, others who've been caught between worlds. Dual citizens who understand the specific alienation. Here, you don't have to explain. They know what it's like to be suspected by both sides, to belong nowhere completely, to carry 2 incomplete identities. You start volunteering with refugee organizations, helping others navigate the bureaucracy you survived. It's the first thing that feels meaningful since you returned. Using your trauma to help others makes it bearable. 2 years after your return, the war ends, not with victory or defeat, but with exhaustion. A negotiated settlement that changes little. Borders reopen, flights resume, sanctions adjust. The world moves on. Your aunt emails asking if you'll visit. Your mother hopes you'll reconnect with family. You look at the invitation and feel only anxiety. You're not ready. Maybe you'll never be ready. You're 37 now. You have an apartment in Brooklyn, a job at a law firm, a life that looks normal from outside. But you're also the person who was trapped in Tehran during war, who learned to disappear into Iranian identity to survive. Who crossed a river at night, fleeing between two countries that both rejected you? You are Iranian-American. Not a blend, not a choice, but a permanent state of between. You belong to both countries and neither. You're claimed by both cultures and trusted by neither. And you'll spend the rest of your life navigating that impossible space. In the support group, someone asks if you regret going to Tehran, if you wish you'd never visited your grandmother. You think about her hand in yours as she died, about the connection you found despite the cost, about understanding finally what your parents lost. You say no. The trauma was real, but so was the belonging, however brief. You'd rather carry both than neither. Someone else asks if you feel more American or Iranian. You used to have an answer to that question. Now you know it's the wrong question. You're not more of one or less of the other. You're the hyphen between Iranian-American, the space that connects and separates, the bridge that belongs to neither shore. And that's not a problem to solve. It's just who you are.